What's up, guys? We are live. I am very, very excited today because we get to announce somebody joining our group here at eXp that I have looked up to for an extremely long time in this industry. I remember my first interaction with this person. I was at a big coaching conference in Anaheim, and I saw this person up on stage, and he was the epitome of being a poised professional. The second I met this guy, I knew that he was just different than all the other realtors. Let's be honest, like most realtors are very flighty and all over the place. And this guy was just different. I realized like this is a true business person. This guy understands how to run a business. This guy understands how to be a professional. And I've gotten to know him over the last probably 10 plus years, and have come to have a massive amount of respect for him. This guy has been in the business for 30 plus years, has sold over $3 billion worth of real estate, specifically San Diego County, luxury, tons of stuff on the coast here in San Diego. So it's my pleasure to welcome Mr. Alan Shafran to the Fast Forward movement here at eXp. Alan, tell us a little bit about you and your story.
Will do, man. And thank you for all the compliments. I just turned 40. So yeah, did start when I was like 10 years old. Back then they didn't have quite the licensing parameters they have today. So ride the horse into the barn. Story, family's been in the business. I got started that way. And part of a few different companies, over the years. I used to manage money for Payne Weber way back. So I started to understand, some money management and some of those things and how do we apply it to real estate. And just found myself in this business and in this incredible town. And, I don't want to take up 1 hour of your time because we can go on forever. But, became an independent broker probably about 11 years ago. Used to work at, I've been involved with the different franchises like Century 21, Caldwell Banker, probably spent the most amount of time at Prudential, which was then acquired by Berkshire. And then after that time period and very involved in that company, went independent for about 11 years due to a plethora of different reasons. The technology was changing. I felt advantages, being an indie and having the freedom to market the way that we wanted, and things were changing so quickly. So this felt like, we could move 1,000,000 miles an hour and change like a speedboat, right? And, that's probably led us, I don't know, what is it, 4 or 5 years now? I was watching you guys just explode your businesses back then, like out of the blue. I mean, Daniel and I were at like a conference. I remember his questions that he was asking at the time. I think that was a dinner, right, Daniel? Wasn't it? Oh, way back. Just like, his brain soaking up everything. And you never know, right? You're meeting different people. And he was asking me questions at the time. And like you said, Kyle, it's some realtors make it and they create businesses and they explode. And in our industry, there's a big percentage of those realtors that don't. And that was the same with Kurt. Kurt and I also met, way back in real estate conferences, and we're all educating and believing in growth and creating businesses and those things. And 5 years ago, watching you guys do this, I've just been watching. So, there's lots of exciting reasons why, we're making this move as a team, and, we can go into any depth, of detail that you want from there. Does that kind of give a good enough background? Like I said, there's too much information back there.
For sure. Kurt, I know that you were an independent broker. I was an independent broker. Alan was an independent broker. Dan's the odd one, hence the sideways camera too. Is the only one of us that wasn't an independent broker. Kurt, you've been with us pretty much since the beginning back in 2018. And I'm curious, how was it for you 4 years ago? What does Alan have to look forward to over his next 4 or 5 years? What have you kind of experienced so far going from being the indie broker to now being a team at eXp, and what advice would you give to Alan?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years ago, before we all joined eXp, one of my pain points was simply being the broker. I didn't have a large brokerage, but it was my team, and I was also in production. And just that, always worrying about, keeping all of your agents out of trouble, to avoid headaches, to avoid lawsuits in the future, was something I wanted to alleviate myself from. And, back before we joined eXp, I literally, and I think Alan knows this, talked to every single brokerage out there. All of them were, recruiting me, offering money, come to Sotheby's, come to Century 21, come to Coldwell Banker. And every time I had those interviews and spoke with them, really the outcome was such that they didn't really have anything to offer for my clients that I didn't do myself already. Now, they would take over, the liability, which was that big pain point for me, but at such a big cut, right? At such a big piece of the pie. And so that was when eXp came along. Obviously, the format just was ideal for that. What Alan has to look forward to is never having to worry about it anymore. That was I considered it probably 20 to 25% of my time, right, that I allocated in my business. It was risk management, keeping people out of trouble, making sure I was always, up to speed on every legal aspect of things, or putting out fires if need be. And not being the broker anymore, I can allocate that 20 to 25% time now back to my business and generating growth and generating clients. Just never have to worry about that in the back of your mind anymore. It was just a stress reliever from that aspect. To know now there's a national company that's going to take care of all of that, worry about that for me, was just a huge relief for me.
I love it. Alan, what are you excited about on that? Like, you've been a broker 11 years. Now you're not. Like, what was the motivation to go away from being the broker? Because I was always of this mindset, like, I'm going to be an indie and there's this pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Like, that was always an allure for me. I later realized there is no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's just coal. What was the allure of being indie to you, and why move away from that today?
Yeah, man. I mean, you and I had plenty of meals to discuss this, over time. And, a lot of it was at this point, some of the things that Kurt was talking about. There are a lot of pieces to eXp, and particularly the group and movement that you two have created, in my opinion, offer a tremendous amount of benefits. It's a little bit of each piece, right? I'm not moving over just for one piece. It is nice, absolutely, to have that layer of liability removed, allow you to grow with more comfort, less to think about. California is certainly a libelous state, so we have to keep those things in mind. But just as important, for the team and for the agents, I'm very excited about being part of the network and growing with more ideas, listening to new things, having, there's younger people coming in. Kurt and I were talking about this, with better ideas and different ways of doing things. And that creates energy. And I've been doing this for a long time. So I'm excited about having that piece. There isn't a piece of me that would move over if I felt that we would suffer as a real estate. I'm doing this because I think we're going to grow. We're going to do better. I think our agents are going to have better lives. I'm excited about all of those pieces, and everything else that comes as a result of it that people know about eXp is just icing on the cake. As you and I talked about it, right? The number one thing and the most important platform here is to make sure that your real estate business can excel and grow. That is the most important part. And I've watched you guys and I've studied it. And this is, to me, by far the most agent-centric, most logical real estate system I have ever seen. It makes more sense. Even as I was thinking lately, okay, our economy's changing, things are changing. Look, I watched Keller Williams, but way back. I've known all of the big guys. We've all networked over the years, right? I don't know that there's a company that's better positioned to survive and thrive than eXp and the platform that they've created. And they were first to the street. Sure, there's some luck and timing and there's some other things, but it happened and it is what it is. So, there's a certain point where you're saying, okay, this makes sense. I didn't want to, with independent business, I was building my home at the time. I had several things going on, 4 or 5 years ago. I didn't want to deal with the stress of it. And you guys know, we were all talking and I was like almost there. I didn't, I was a little stressed out about, okay, the brand going to make a change. Was this going to affect like my brand, my name, our team, how are they going to feel? I even spoke to a couple of the agents about it at the time. And it made more sense for me at that time to just watch and see what happens a little bit. And guess what? I mean, you guys have proven that absolutely there is nothing but positive that comes out of this. There has been, we talked about it earlier, a lot of disruption. And the real estate space is slow in movement. So the faster, the faster, I think at this point, we as an industry realize, hey, it's changed. It ain't going backwards. And now there's, yeah, go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, okay.
Mine skipped out. I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. It's just been a lot of things that made sense. It made sense to me 5 years ago. I should have gone with my gut 5 years ago, which is why I looked at it so hard. My gut was saying, okay. And when my gut says it, it's typically, to me, I trust it. It's right. But I just didn't move. So at this point, my decisions are based on much more than just me. It's about the team and where they can go and what they can do. And what we all can do in this scenario. And I watched you guys do it. So I'm very excited.
Kyle, to add to your question about what does Alan have to look forward to, I focused very much on what he's leaving behind, right? What you're leaving behind and what that's going to offer. And you and Dan know my story, right? My story is, sure, I came over to eXp with you back in 2018. And you guys, because of the way eXp is built, obviously, it allows for all of us to help each other and help each other grow and teach and share. And you guys know my story was that I kind of did it, but I was still head in the sand, focused on my own business. And I really didn't participate in what eXp had to offer from the aspect of all of us sharing and learning from each other. And so in the past year or so, that I've come back and leaned into communicating with all of you guys and participating in all of these things. And this is what I have found to be the biggest value of this business model. And and Alan and I have had discussions over the past several months. And I told him I was doing this. And I kept telling him, look, I have learned more about running a team, running a business, about all the new things that are out there in the world by leaning into this format and being part of all of these other agents. And my advice to Alan is what you have to look forward to is if you and your team lean into that, you will see that growth and you will just see a whole new world of real estate where you and I are a bit older than these guys and kind of had our mindset. We know what works and we've been—
Speak for yourself, Kurt. Speak for yourself.
We've been chugging along, but to lean into these guys who are a little bit younger and it's not just these guys, right? I'm excited for you to get exposed to the network across the country of all of these other people that I have learned so much from just in the past several months. That is what you really truly have to look forward to, and is the biggest benefit.
That what you just said there, Kurt, like show me a top producer that's giving in any given environment. I'll show you 30, right? From what we have here together. It's a lot of people get wrapped up in following the guru model of, hey, I'm going somewhere for that person. No, it's what I'm excited about, Alan, is there's so many people. This isn't just lip service. Like, go grab you from a year ago, someone else who then came in and now has, conversations in public and private text, just real relationships with people that are, look, I'm not the best at every aspect of the business. Are you? Of course not. But someone in the group is. And so when you start to reach all that, it's really fun. I want to just say a couple of things. This is special for me, personal level. There's not a lot of people there's just not a lot of people in the county or in the country that have your track record, your production level. And I want you guys to know, because we've kind of teased at his age a little bit, because he's 30 years in the business, this and that. Like, Alan is freaking going, baby. Like, he's a Zillow Flex team. He is growing, perennial $100 million plus producer. And I'm probably cutting you way short there. And so, like, this is a guy that is building and building. But I just go back to being a really impressionable realtor at this little conference that I attended in Coronado that you probably don't remember me from. And I'm like, holy shit, there's Alan Shafran, right? And like, I remember grabbing your newspaper ads that you would just, I mean, you'd have a full page. I think it was in the Tribune every single, whatever it was, week or whatever. I remember looking at that every single week. I remember trying to poke at your website. I remember when you grabbed the Real Estate Webmasters site, and I was on Real Estate Webmasters. I'm like, oh shit, Alan's gonna, now I have to deal with this guy, like, because you've just always been in front on the tech side in real estate, and now you're someone that I understand the value of. But what really lights me up is thinking about all the people in our environment that as soon as they understand who you are, what they'll be able to learn and grow from, and watching that go back and forth, that's the real magic to it. So I just want to give you a really, really warm welcome.
Thank you, man. I will tell you that you both hit a point that who's ever listening to this, right? Some of us have a lot of experience with these franchises and traditional companies. The way the consumers look at them, the way realtors look at them, and there is not always the teamwork that is represented in many of these other models. And one of the reasons that we're coming on board is because, as I said, the agent-centric, like, you immediately feel like part of the fold, the transparency, the openness, the direction. It's just a different attitude. The company is made up of different cells and genes. It's just a different platform, and it's transparent, which has obviously been the big word for the last 20 years in every part of life. So, it's very exciting. Happy to contribute, and just as happy to, learn so much of what's going on out there in the organization that you guys have built. So very excited. Thank you.
There's two more things I want to make sure I hit on. One, a lot of people don't know this, right? Dan, you were talking about him being forward thinking. Like, you actually built a tech platform that had an exit. Like, that's pretty freaking impressive, man. Like, I don't have that. Dan doesn't have that. Kurt doesn't have that. You literally built a tech platform and sold this platform for a significant sum of money. Like, you have always been very, very forward thinking. So quit this old shit. You're not an old man. You literally built and sold a tech platform. Like, none of us have done that. So super impressive, right?
Showing Time was smarter than me, man. They bought us, and then they sold it to Zillow for $500 million. So maybe I should have waited a little bit more. But
the other thing I want to ask is, I know that when we first got into conversation, you were looking at eXp versus Real, right? You were looking at a company with a very similar platform.
Yes.
Why did you choose to go with eXp versus Real?
For a few reasons. Number one, and they kind of go hand in hand, the 2 points. Number one is the movement, the group that you all have created. I wanted to be surrounded by you guys. You guys are studs. The people that are part of your group, they're going to think the same way. They're going to have the same attitude. I'm very excited about that. Number two, Real doesn't support that platform from what I understand. So I'm saying this today they could change it tomorrow, but from what I understand, Dave, you're not allowed to build really a platform that's your platform, even within the system of your education, your like-minded people, those types of things. So it's just I think there are some parameters within that system that are very limiting and a little bit scary or dangerous to me as far as a company, if I'm looking out 10 or 20 years and looking out for our team and our realtors. And if you look at the intricacies, the details, I just don't think they touch eXp. And at this point, why take the risk? Look, yes, there's icing on the cake with many of the things that eXp and Real offer, right? Whether it's the rev share or the other things. But again, like we've all talked, we want those things to be benefits as to the things that we do as part of what we do every day, and still make sure that this real estate platform and the teams and our businesses create the dreams for everybody that they want. And eXp's got that built. Why would I take the risk with what I think is a different company? The ownership percentage is differently, the way they're funded is differently. And that's why it took me so long to jump on board here, guys. Like, I really did my research to make sure that our team was going onto a platform that was going to be here 10, 20, 30 and thrive. And they're proven. So, and I think we're going to have lots of changes, lots of opportunity. I've heard all kinds. I mean, I was approached from the other company and just saying, hey, there's more opportunity. I don't agree. I don't agree. I think things are always changing. Things are always growing. We understand the way this industry turns over. So
You know what's
it is what
interesting
it
about
is.
that, Alan, is like when the value proposition is it's early, then what the heck is it when it's not early?
Right.
Because there's a lot of that. Like our premise, like we'd love to talk to anyone, but let's start with this. Okay. We'd love to talk to anyone that wants to move their business from where it's at to where they'd like it to be. So if you're doing 100 deals a year, you want to do 300, great. If you're doing 0 deals a year because you just got started, you want to do 36, 3 a month, awesome. If you're doing 300, you want to do 600, cool. We got people for that too, proven in the team. And so that's the premise with which we need to bring people into the environment. I tell people, listen, if you see that this could lead to that, great. But let's do it under the assumption you never collect one dime of the other stuff, the rev share, all that.
Right.
Let's leave that totally off the table. It cannot be part of the factor. If you see this moving your core business, because what happens is right now in the environment, there's a lot of like, oh, come here, you'll be the next rich person overnight. Well, again, when coming early, when going somewhere early is the value prop, as soon as it's not early, like then what the heck is the value prop next year, right? Also,
Right.
How are you going to make all these riches that you're being promised by people that don't actually know what you're going to do and produce in that area? That the only thing you can control or they can control actually is what they share with you in the real estate business. The only thing you can control is how you grab onto that information, use it, take action. And what's interesting is that when you're a growing realtor, when your business is strong, people tend to want to be a part of that, not by
Right.
focusing on trying to get rich next week. But I digress. When people are when people are focused on that, it just brings it's a lie, right? Like it's a form of how do you know what they're going to do? What we do know is we're going to show up on every Monday to share real estate, buyers, sellers, every Tuesday, our solo agent group, every Friday, our wealth building group, we're going to be there on a consistent basis to do those things. But what I wanted to wrap up there with, because I lost track, was, okay, great. So it's early. Well, the riches depend on like you having a load of people in your group, but you're being promised by somebody. But if the only way to get those people is by being early, then how the heck are they going to get those people? Because if they don't get those people, you won't have the people. So it's all just like, I'd encourage any realtor to leave that all 100% aside and go find what value prop actually has teeth. And by teeth, I mean, where am I going to be able to interact with an Alan Shafran who's incentivized to my growth, not told not to be incentivized to my growth? Because here's what I'll always side with, Alan. Like the model that where I'll always go and lean toward is in favor and with natural human behavior. Natural human behavior is if you win, I win, shit, then I'm really motivated for you to win. Not natural human behavior is, well, hey, it's actually been tested. As far as I know, socialism has been a lot less successful than capitalism. And that's because, hey, like we'll just all sort of somehow, it doesn't have the teeth. And so
But
I get
it's like I said, the people who are part of franchises who have been, they know, right? You walk into an office, and I was part of it, right? Whether it was Prudential or Berkshire, even in San Diego, my team's always been like, let's call it, if I'm number one in North County, which is my section, or number 5 in all San Diego or whatever, that's been kind of the stats. And the same thing in those other companies. But within those, it's very siloed. Even within those companies, it's very siloed. You're not walking into those companies, and I'm not speaking for all of them, and I'm not here to denigrate or criticize. I'm just calling my experience what my experience is, which is that they are siloed. They're not supportive. It's a competitive, like almost a slightly negative environment. They don't love to see the success. They don't love to see the growth. They'd rather just win the trophy, per se. This is the opposite of that. It's transparent. I've watched you guys. I've talked to you guys. I've talked to Kurt. Like everything is transparent, straightforward, up and up, all about sharing, all about like, hey, let's get rid of these layers that have really coveted and weighed down this industry for a very, very long time. And I was part of that system too. No doubt. That's how I grew up. That's that's what you learn to live in. No need to live in that environment anymore. And the other company that we're talking about, there is no more entrepreneurial platform that I've seen that allows us to take an indie, take my name, take what we've done, take our modum operandi, take our brand, take our theories, and still do what it is that I want to do, and yet still have the ability to learn and grow and share. It's something that, I mean, you guys know it still happens today. I mean, how much does someone have to spend to get that type of an environment if they're going to do it on their own? It's a fortune. And then they're still not going to get that kind of information.
Dan, to pile on your point, when you and I and Kyle were all talking about eXp a few years ago, none of the reason any of us joined was because it was early, right? We were seeing the model for what it was. And I can attest that I think even throughout the 4 or 5 years, Alan, that you and I have had discussions, once or twice you were kind of like, oh, I already missed it, right? I already missed it. But then you kind of started to realize here you are at this today. It's not about being early. That's not the value of it. It's not about being early. It has nothing to do with it. eXp has its model and it creates just what you said. And being early had nothing to do with it for us when we joined.
Yeah, I mean, the value, let's be real, in 30 minutes from now, it's 9:30 here on the West Coast. We have our weekly Fast Forward Movement Mastermind that we have run for years now. There will be 600, 700, 800 plus people on that mastermind and have been consistently. And the beauty of that mastermind, I'm honored to get to host this thing, with Dan and Mary on a weekly basis. Like, people in the group, they submit their questions, their struggles, their challenges that they're facing in their business. We ask the question, and I just watch the Zoom screen and I watch people raise their hands to chime in, to pour into the group, to answer the questions. And I'm looking, I'm like, holy cow, Tina Call, $300 million producer, Kenny Fast, $800 million producer, like all these 100, 200, 300, $400 million producers that are basically sharing exactly how they got to where they are, and not just sharing the successes, but sharing the struggles as well. Because I've actually found in my career, I learned more on how to not screw it up than I do anything else. And so by having people who've been where you want to go, that are willing to pour into you and tell you exactly, hey, don't do this. There's a roadblock over there. Do that. And to be able to have access to that every single week. And like Dan mentioned, our calendar is literally 5 days a week now. You've got our full Fast Forward Movement Mastermind every Monday. You have a solo agent specific mastermind on Tuesdays, an operations specific mastermind on Wednesdays, a lady leaders mastermind on Thursdays. And then Fridays, we do wealth building and we do agent attraction training every Friday. Like, you have that on a consistent basis. And then if you're at the level that, these guys are at here, where if you're doing 50 million in volume or 100 plus units, which we have over 200 people in the group, there's another higher level mastermind for that. And so the ability to come together as a group where everybody is pouring into each other, because this group, the power of this group, screw stock, screw rev share, screw everything else. These masterminds are the power of the group. This is what's allowed, we've gone from just over 100 million to almost 400 million this year. Dan's had similar growth. Like, what's allowed us to get to that level is this collective genius of this group, of all of these amazing people just pouring into the group, sharing everything that has gotten them to where they are today. And I could tell you success story after success story of people who've gone from 9 million to 300 million. People who've gone from 6 transactions to 60 transactions while having 3 kids. Like, there's just story after story of people who've grown their production from, very small numbers to big numbers, getting to those goals that they've set for themselves. And that's truly the power of the group. So if you're watching this today, like, if you want to get a taste of what this is, why did Alan make this move? Why did Kurt? Why did Dan and I build this thing? Like, if you want a taste of that, if you want to get on one of these masterminds, I have Alan's contact info on the screen, which he doesn't give his number out very often. So you guys should be privileged that he's giving his number out. If you guys want access to that, that's his number. Shoot him a text, give him a call. He'll get you the details on all these different events. Let us know, like, which one do you want to learn on? But I'll tell you, the Mondays are my favorite. reach out to Alan directly. He'll get you the details, tell you how to get on there. Or if you're thinking about making the move yourself and you want to talk to him a little bit more, off a camera and get the lowdown from him, like reach out to him. He's as straight of a shooter as you're going to find. I promise you that. He does not hold back any bunches. So if you want, reach out to Alan. I know he'd love to connect with you. Any parting words, guys?
No, man. Well said, Alan. Welcome, brother.
No.
Good to
Thank
meet you all.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your patience. I've been talking to you guys for a while. Wish I would have done it sooner. So excited.
Love it, man.
Go grow,
We'll see you
man.
guys.
All right.
Bye.
See you guys.
All right, bye.